episode 51. It's the Hot Stove League in Reds Country. I'm Jeff.
Tom.
I'm Kim.
And this is a Three Old Reds Fans podcast coming to you via Zoom from in and around locations near the heart of Cedarville, the famous birthplace and final resting place of Reds pitching legend Bumpus Jones. As a listener to our podcast, thank you for being one of the most loyal Reds fans ever. We have a 5-star rating on the Apple Podcast app, but we love more ratings and reviews, so drop something for us there. Leave us a review, comment on our page on podbean.com, or follow us on Twitter at 3 Old Reds Fans or on Facebook. Episode 51 in honor of, I looked at the number 51 list, there weren't too many good names on there.
Probably pretty low.
Was there a lefty pitcher?
I don't remember. Tell me who.
No, it must not be 51. I was thinking Joe Price. He was 49.
No, he's not on here.
He's Dibble. Okay.
The most recent guy of consequence was Jonathan Broxton. Also, the legendary Lisalverto Bonilla. He was a number 51.
What?
Mark Wohlers. Bunch of names I don't even recognize. A name from he was a starting pitcher from 78 to 81. And then I think he went to the Giants after that. Tall, skinny guy.
You're not talking Lacoste.
Mike Lacoste. Yeah. I was actually at Mike Lacosse's major league debut, and I think the first guy hit a home run off of him. Or he gave up a home run in his first inning at any rate.
At some point he went to the Royals too.
He may have. Let me see. I click on his.
I thought he went from the Reds.
I'm on Baseball Reference here. He in 4 years with the Reds, he was 32 and 35, had a 4.39 ERA, and then he went to the Astros for 3 years. He played for the Royals for a year when he was 29, and then his last 6 seasons were with the Giants. 97 and 102 career record in 13 seasons, 3.99 career ERA. He was an all-star with the Reds in 79 when he was 23 years old. He went 14-8 with a 3.50 ERA that year. So he probably had a good first half and had a nice season. And that's probably the best. Well, he had a 3.17 ERA for the Giants in 89 when he was 33, and he was 10-10. So those are probably his 2 best years. I'm not looking at all. I'm not going to take time to look at all the other numbers, but in generally speaking, in those key numbers, that's.
I just looked up a former Red. He was not number 51 for the Reds, but in the years after the Reds, Pedro Borbón was number 51.
Who did Pedro go? Where'd he end up? I don't remember where he.
Braves and Blue Jays.
Jays, and he wore number 51. I loved Pedro Borbón. He was a funny guy. Anyway, all right, so that's that. But we're here to talk about today's team and everything, and the Reds have divested themselves of some salaries here. Before we talk about maybe why they're doing it and everything, let's just talk about these guys in general first, about how we feel about them not being part of this team. And then we can talk about what this all means. What are they doing with payroll? Are they rebuilding? Is this just COVID related? Whatever. And then we can talk about some other players after that too. But so Raisel Iglesias is gone, good or bad or indifferent?
I think if you go from the highest level, what's the most important position on the field for the Reds to be strong at? It's pitching all day long, starting and relief pitching. Okay. So we were super strong last year in pitching. It didn't quite work out for us, did it?
Well, no, because the offense wasn't good enough in the playoffs. Obviously, we didn't score a run in two games and multiple right. and in extra innings, no less.
I hate to see him break down the pitching, I guess. Now, if we only have to lose, if he would be the only pitcher we'd have to lose to pick up more offense, that seems okay. Mm-hmm. But we're also losing Trevor. And now they're talking about Sonny, which is, I know, a whole nother discussion.
Yeah. So we can talk about him in a little bit. But yeah.
I kind of feel like if they go that far, they're going over the deep end. But, maybe if it's only him and it helps us free up salary space to get some offense, we might be okay.
Might be okay.
That's my thoughts.
All right. Kim, what do you think?
Your question about how do we feel about it? I guess if you look at it from a high point of view and you look at Iglesias's stats, you go, what are they doing? But if you lower that drone and get below the top of the pine tree levels and see what he's really done the past 2 years or what he hasn't done and heartbreaking losses and things, I think it's understandable. I like what y'all just said about, all right, forget about Trevor Bauer. You know, we're not going to get him. But if you don't lose any more pitchers and such, and I know we'll talk about the Sonny Gray rumors, I think it's understandable. So who becomes your reliever? We got to have a, Jeff, you have said the past few years that you can go out there and you can find a bullpen ace. Will they be as good as X? Who knows? But, you know, I'm okay with it because it also, what was it, $9 million it saves in the budget?
It's not like it's an even trade, that's for sure, because this new guy they're bringing over, not real impressive. His average fastball is 88 miles an hour.
True.
Yeah.
So,
but they like some spin rate stuff, don't they? And you know how they are about that, trying to do that. So Iglesias is due for 9.1 this year. Yeah. So, and he's a free agent after next year. So Iglesias goes out and has a really good year. Are they going to re-sign him anyway? That's debatable. He's been reunited with Jose Iglesias. So
that's right.
I think I read that with Iglesias being traded and with these other guys that they've let go, they've freed up a total of $14 million.
Iglesias is, he's making peanuts on that team compared to the top four. And they're paying four guys between 20. They got four guys with salaries between 23 and 37 million.
Who's this?
The Angels.
It's almost like they're in LA or something.
Trout's making 37 million from now through 2027.
Every penny of it.
Rendon is making 28 this year, then 36, then 38 for up through 2026. Now you know why the Reds don't have any of these guys. Pujols is making 30 million next year. Then he's a free agent, which if he continues to play after next year, he's almost 41 years old. He'll be 41 when the season starts. He's not making anywhere near that, or he might just retire. Justin Upton is making 23 million next year and 28 the year after. And then
the Angels have the third highest payroll.
Yeah. Oh yeah. It's huge. Their projected payroll for 2021, right? Well, for 2020, it was 177. Right now, they're estimated for 2021 is 163. The Reds payroll this past year was 142. Estimated coming up now is 123 based on some things that they've done. Now that can change, obviously. They're not expecting, to pay all these guys. Some of these, we're not seeing, that doesn't include anybody who's a free agent now, obviously. So you've got Votto at 25, Castellanos at 16, Moustakas at 14, Gray and Suarez at 10 plus, and change. Wade Miley at 8, Shogo 7, Tucker 4.1, Lorenzen is 4.1, Winker 2.7, Garrett 1.1. Oh, these are estimated arbitration numbers, starting with Lorenzen, excuse me. They're estimating those guys there, and this Ramirez guy that they just traded for, they're estimating him at 1.1, Molly at 2 million, Castillo at 4.4 in arbitration.
Do you always scroll down to the bottom and see the deferred salaries that the Reds are still paying?
Yeah, here I can.
To Ken Griffey Jr. and
we're doing this on Zoom.
Bronson Arroyo. I think that's always fascinating that the Reds are still paying Junior 3.5 a year.
Yeah, can you see this?
Yeah.
So there's.
At least not the Mets, and we don't celebrate Bobby Bonilla Day.
No, we don't. We do celebrate.
I shouldn't say celebrate. I would say mourn.
Right. We are. Let's see.
The one I'm looking at has a deferred salary.
Yeah. It's not on this page.
My concern is you let Trevor go. DeSclafani's a free agent, right?
Right.
He's gone. And then if you let Sonny go, that's 3 of your starters plus your top closer. I mean, come on.
Here's a question. I saw somebody tweet this. Did the Iglesias trade make everybody think fire sale? we're dumping lots of salaries.
Not yet.
Okay. But is that why there are Sonny Gray rumors? Because it's like, oh, you traded Iglesias for that? Because they didn't really get a lot. It's hard. I mean, the guy's making $9 million. He's 1 year away from free agency. You're not going to get a lot for him. If you were going to get 3 or 4 years of control out of him, you're going to get more, right? And so this whole, you trade contracts, you trade years of control, you trade for it or you don't trade for it, and that affects what you get back. It's not, oh, Raisel Iglesias is this good a player. We're automatically going to get the same kind of level of performing players back. No, you don't, because the contract stuff is a huge part of it. So if Iglesias had 2 years left on that at $9 million a year, we'd have got more. But he's got 1 left, so we get less. So I think what it did was it said, hey, maybe the Reds are dumping people. Everybody's going to start offering for Sonny Gray, because what's Sonny Gray got left? He's got 2 years. He's got a very
really
affordable 2 years
contract.
left. $10.6 million for a guy that pitches like that. Yeah,
Right.
That's very affordable. So now everybody's asking. So does this mean the Reds are shopping him, or does this just mean a lot of people are inquiring because what they did with Iglesias? And I don't think they're gonna trade Sonny personally, unless they just get this ridiculous offer that you can't pass up.
Now, conspiracy theory, maybe they know more about Sonny Gray's back than other people do, and his back is not going to last 2 years.
Maybe. He's 31. He just turned 31.
He's had back troubles for years. It's not like it's a new thing, you know.
No, I know. I mean, that's just a theory of mine. I don't know that they're not really in fire sale mode, but they are in a little bit of payroll cutting mode, and I think everybody is, because you didn't make any money at the gate last year. It's affecting people's bottom lines.
Well, you're likely not to make money at the gate the first half of next year either.
It's very possible. It could be very limited.
I feel like if they keep Sonny, if they keep that pitching staff intact, Gray and Castillo and Miley, I don't know who. I guess Tyler Molly as well.
Well, yeah, and Lorenzen could be a starter.
Or are they thinking of him as a closer now that they got rid of Iglesias?
Well, who do you like better, Lorenzen or Garrett?
Garrett.
I know Kim likes Garrett better. Kim, what kind of texts do we get from you, Kim, every time Lorenzen comes in the game?
I don't know every time, but it just he actually performed much better this year as a starter. Very small window, right? Very small window, but those 3 starts, I believe it was, and they were clutch starts. We needed those W's at the end of the year. He performed great.
Yeah.
But a guy out of the bullpen, it just seemed like, okay, keep the ball in the park, keep the ball in the park.
I know.
So I'm with Tom. Garrett for sure, but Lorenzen, I do look at him as, okay, he's something. He could start. He really could. And imagine if he started and we didn't have the designated hit. Oh, I'm sorry. I'll go into that later.
Oh, we haven't had that discussion.
He might hit 210. Okay. So
hey, Jeff, and that would have brought up the team average this past year. Let's be honest.
That's true.
Yeah, that's true. Well, the problem with this past season is you get into this, some people hate to use this term, sample size, but I think it makes a lot of sense this past year. It's just hard to really, especially hitting, it's really hard to judge what guys are going to be like. I mean, and some of the key guys we got were, Moustakas was hurt a lot and so forth. So, I mean, I don't know.
That has merit, but they still played about 40% of the season.
I know. And other teams tore the cover off the ball, and this team didn't. So who knows? Garrett seems like, to me, the most obvious guy to become the closer that's on this staff. I think Archie Bradley would have had a shot at that, but they let him go. Could they possibly re-sign him? Possibly, but usually when you don't tender when you do the non-tender thing, you typically sign the guy back pretty quickly, like they did with Kyle Farmer. So, which I think was a good move. So anyway,
So I've got a question.
Yeah, go ahead.
Let's switch gears from pitching to hitting a little bit.
Absolutely.
As bad as we were hitting last year, is really just adding a shortstop the answer to that?
You know,
I don't. It depends
Fair
on
question.
if the other guys bounce back or not.
yeah, and I would like to see. Moustakas was hurt quite a bit. What's his name? Senzel. If there's an ailment or an injury lurking around the corner, it's going to find Nick Senzel first. So I'm kind of hoping I'm kind of hoping that they stay healthy this year. But Tom, that is a very, very fair question. The answer probably be no, but let's hope that now that you got the guys and this is their second year here, Castellanos and Moustakas, and if we do have the DH, then you're assured, Winker's going to play and Akiyama's going to play.
Yeah.
Suarez needs to be Suarez, but do we need to upgrade first base?
Well, it'd be nice, but it's.
Can
not
we
gonna
even
happen.
do that? Can we do that?
No, I mean, nobody wants that $25 million salary that Joey Votto has. Nobody else wants it. So anyway, so we're on Zoom and Kim is showing a huge the big shareable bag of M&Ms at us.
Second, Tom joined the club too. Tom's thinking about
He's got milk duds. I wonder what you were chewing on over there.
What do you got, Jeff?
I'm just gonna chew on my pen.
Yuck.
That's all I got. So I'm far away.
Are we allowed to trade Joey Votto?
Well, yeah. Well, he has no trade. I mean, he's got right. He's a 10-year guy. So yeah, he can refuse any trade. He has to give.
So you think
he probably can trade him, but he has to agree to it.
Yeah. Okay.
He's totally no trade claused in. Yeah.
Along with what Tom said, I've been thinking about it this week. Is Votto one of those guys that you pay out the next 10 years? You reduce some salary now and pay him that through 10 to 15 years so you can have flexibility now.
Maybe. So you have annual Joey Votto Day. Yeah.
And that means
have to agree to that.
I guess that determines if you're going to try to be competitive now or not.
Yeah. I mean, it does. I mean, I think this team wants to be competitive. I think they're trying. I think this year has created a problem, but we'll see. I mean, I think a lot of people jump to the conclusion that the Reds have just given up on this year because they traded Iglesias.
I don't think so.
I don't think that. I think that's a big leap. I think that's a big leap.
Like I said in our text, it depends on if they trade Sonny Gray.
Yeah, if you trade Sonny Gray, then I'm not. I think if I agree. That makes it feel like, okay, we're not in this year.
Right. Okay,
we're not in, especially if we don't upgrade the offense that much. So I don't think a Lindor thing's going to happen because they don't want to pay that kind of money that he's going to need and want and whatever he's getting now, which I don't even know what he's getting now. That really is something I don't see. He is a free, he's making 19.5 this year and he's a free agent next year. I mean, are the Reds going to do that and then pay him $30 million a year? No, they're not. So why get him for 1 year? There's other guys out there, Andrelton Simmons and Didi Gregorius are out there. I mean, if you did Lindor and you didn't have to give up much for 1 year, and then Jose Garcia is your guy after that, fine. But Lindor is way too. The Indians aren't giving him up for nothing, so it's going to cost you way too much. But
I just want to know.
Sign Gregorius for 2 years or something like that, and then you can transition into Garcia if he is. I mean, the Indians' estimated payroll next year is $69 million. So I mean, they only paid. It was 95 this year, so
I want to
they don't
know
like to spend money.
how does the Tampa Bay Rays have a salary of half of what the Reds do, and year in and year out they're a contender? How do they do that in a very tough division? I want their secret for the Reds.
You
They're
want
like
their
$50 million.
You want their secret? Well, it's this year. It was 73 million.
Right now they're at like 50, and the Reds are at like 100.
They're a very analytics driven team. They look at a lot of the stats and stuff, and they're very get guys on base and have some good pitching and find, that's how they play. I mean, that's part of it. And sometimes there's a little bit of luck, right?
Yeah, I don't think they have luck because they do it every year.
I know. You make your own luck a little bit, but Blake Snell, I don't know. I mean, he's got 3 more. He's under contract through 2023, but I think I've heard his name pop up as a guy they might deal.
It's probably because he's one of their highest salary guys.
Well, yeah, he is. he is their highest salary guy at 11. Well, yeah. Well, he and Kiermaier both making 11 and change. So next year, he was their highest last year, I think.
Well, anyway. It's just interesting to see some of these other teams like that like, and the Twins, I think, are another one that are able to contend with lower payrolls.
Mm-hmm. They do. And, and the Reds, I think, still had overall a lowish type payroll last year and got in with the strong finish. So it can be done. For so long, we've had low payrolls and been terrible.
Right.
I think the average fan thinks, well, if we spend more money, we'll win. Well, if we're smarter and we do a better job of evaluating guys and developing guys, maybe we'll win. And that seems to be what's worked for the Rays. So They still haven't won a World Series, but
they contended, that's for sure.
They sure did. They sure did.
Still say I said back then against the Braves, if they could win one of those first 2 games, I felt good going into Game 3 with Sonny Gray, but we couldn't. Forget getting a win, we couldn't get a run.
Get a run. I know.
So frustrating.
I mean, the question you have to ask when you're as a front office right now is, how close do we think we are, and to having a chance to get to a World Series? Do we have the core of that? If we do, we try to make some changes in and around it to make that happen. If we don't, we start over. And I don't think they're going to try to start over. I think that would be more frustrating. I would rather miss the playoffs trying to make it than I would start over. Who wants to have that? Because then you're like, okay, well, it's 3 more years before we even have a chance.
Well, I was a little disappointed that the Reds didn't turn over their hitting coach.
They did that the year before.
I know. But it didn't improve last year, that's for sure.
Yeah.
The thing is you didn't see players make adjustments as the year goes on. Pete Rose, I remember hearing him interviewed several times, that you can't always do the same thing. You got to make adjustments as the year goes on, because the scouting reports have a certain way to pitch you. Okay, so they start pitching you that way. You got to adjust to that. So,
right.
Kind of disappointed they didn't make a fresh start with the hitting coach.
This team needs to figure out who the closer is. They're certainly going to have to do more with the bullpen. Now, they brought this Hoffman guy in who they think has potential, but his numbers aren't very good. Got Lorenzen, who might become a starter. They got this Ramirez guy. He'll obviously be part of it. Lucas Sims was really good last year out of the bullpen.
Yeah, he was.
And then it's cast of thousands after that, trying to fill in the holes. I don't know who they're going to be. I mean, it's too early to know that till we get to spring training and we start seeing who they bring in, who they give a minor league contract to, who they might sign as a free agent, so forth and so on. So this estimated payroll of $123 million versus $142 last year, the question that everybody wants to know right now is that 123 in the ballpark of where they want to be, or are they trying to get down another 20 million or so? I mean, we don't know the answer to that, right? I think if they try to get down another 20 million or so, this team is not going to be very good.
Let's hope we just kind of stay where we are now, maybe pick up pick up some shortstop.
Okay. So, yeah, they're going to get a shortstop. What about the catching situation? Let Casali go, who's been really good backup guy. I mean, everything you want in a backup catcher, really. You don't need an all-star. Nobody has an all-star backup catcher, but he was really good. And so now it's Barnhart and Tyler Stevenson. Tucker Barnhart's about ready to turn 30, and that's kind of old for a cat. That's starting to get up there for a catcher, for most catchers. I would love to see Stevenson be, just because I feel like you need offense. I mean, they have to at least be 50-50, if not Stevenson. I think you got to be thinking Stevenson is more the lead guy this year going in. That's my opinion. That's what I'd like to see them at least try to make happen. Now, if Stevenson falls flat, he falls flat, but I don't think he will. I think he's going to be good.
He's a righty, right?
Yeah. Well, as far as a right-handed hitter, yeah. I was saying, all catchers are right-handed, right? But yeah, as far as a hitter,
you could go right left with him, and because Barnhart's a switch hitter, right?
Well, Barnhart gave up switch hitting last year.
Oh, he did. Okay.
Yeah. So
he's lefty all the time now.
Yeah. But you face more right-handers, so that means Barnhart. If you went strictly on that, Barnhart would play more.
Right.
I've not heard anything about Stevenson not being able to hit lefties. So,
I'll miss Casali because he exceeded what any expectation I had, because I never heard of him.
Yeah.
He came in a year or so ago. 2, he was a leader in the clubhouse. And 3, how many times this past year, there was a stretch, a few games where it's like it was a miracle he was out there in the field, because he was just in pain, taking a foul ball to whatever part of his body. He will be missed. But we're talking about Stevenson and saying offense in comparison to Tucker Barnhart. But I think that's because the jury's still out, because at least me, I'm speaking for myself, I don't know how he is defensively, but the small sample size again this past year they played in, he looked incredibly legit back there.
Yeah.
So I think we're comparing that and saying that because Tucker Barnhart's a Gold Glove winner, 2-time Gold Glove winner now.
Mm-hmm.
So I think the catcher position, as much as I will miss Curt Casali, I think it's a stronger tandem now than it was this past year.
It certainly can be. It certainly can become that.
Definitely.
Especially if Stevenson can emerge as a real regular type of guy.
Yes.
Right. I mean, Tucker Barnhart backing up for the next couple years, for this year. And even maybe I don't know, if he's a backup, they'll never do that. I mean, he's making $4 million this year, 22. There's a club option that would pay him $7.5. If he's the backup catcher, they're not exercising that option. So He would either be gone or re-sign at less, just because he wants to stay with the Reds. So, Tom, you sort of kicked out what it looks like our lineup would be, our basic, most regular lineup would be, right, the other day. So why don't you just run through that?
I think the biggest thing that I'm feeling is that if Votto stays, I don't think we're going to see him in those top 3 spots anymore.
No, that was pretty clear last year.
Right. So I think, the typical lineup would be Shogo, Castellanos, and Suarez as the first 3. Then you put Moose in a cleanup spot.
Mm-hmm.
And then the shortstop to be named later.
Yeah.
Maybe Didi Gregorius.
Yeah. Would be good.
And then you have your catcher spot, Stevenson, Barnhart. Then you could finish that lineup with Votto and Senzel setting up for the top of the lineup again.
Yeah.
So
you could. Winker's not in there, but Winker here will play. He'll get his at bats. Really makes you pine for the DH, doesn't it?
Not at all. We said last year it's a good problem to have too many outfielders, right?
Yeah.
Somebody's always going to get hurt, or how this stuff goes.
Which happened, because didn't Senzel get hurt again last year a little bit?
He did.
And I felt like Castellanos could have used a day off a couple times. He seemed to get he was hot, and then when he seemed to get in a rut, and it's like, man, give the guy a day off. getting the cage
He
all
started
day.
strong, yeah.
But if he'd had 162 games, he probably would have had a couple more odd streaks like that and ended up with really good numbers. So I'm just glad he decided to stay. Kim, what do you think of that? I mean, does that sound like with what we see right now that's probably how it's going to go? And then you figure out it's really probably a 4-man outfield again, thinking Winker.
Based upon what we have right now with the shortstop TBD, absolutely. I will say I don't see Votto hitting 8th or the lower part of the order. He would hit against before Stevenson, and if it's Gregorius, I'd say he'd even hit ahead of Gregorius. Senzel is key. Kid's got to stay healthy.
Yeah.
You can't injury bug, COVID, whatever, vertigo. The next popular virus or whatever, he's going to catch it first. He's got to stay healthy because I'm not giving up on this young man. I think he can really do some things. And remember, they changed in 2019, went to that batting stance change. Remember the whole thing with Votto and that too was very controversial. Tom talked about the batting coach earlier. And so I can see those players that Tom mentioned. I would just see Votto just because I know this thought. I could see Votto batting no lower than 6, but I do not want to see him in the leadoff spot again.
No, it's not going to work. I think Akiyama would be your most. I think he started to find his way later in the year, and I think he makes sense there. Those are the guys we have. Those are the best 9 shortstop to be determined. That's probably your best 9 guys you have right now. Are we okay with that 9? I mean, we need what this team needs more than anything is and you already mentioned it, Kim, with Senzel, and we've talked about Stevenson. It's about time that we have a couple of these offensive guys that they've been bringing up as prospects actually blossom and become really good, steady to really good major league offensive players. And I think that's huge because you think you really know what you're going to get over the long haul from these other guys. But we need a star to emerge really from these young guys.
Yeah, I like this lineup. You got that middle of the lineup that has proven themselves with Castellanos, Suarez, and Moustakas. They've all proven themselves, right, in the past. Right. But yeah, you're absolutely right. We got to have these young guys step up. And just a little side note, you know how we said that the Reds right now freed up about $14 million in payroll. Guess what Didi Gregorius's salary is right now? $14 million.
Yeah, that's interesting, huh? That's interesting. And
as I look at this lineup that Tom's made out, and Jeff, your response about Winker, I look at, all right, so we got 8 players that Tom brought up. I say 9. You cannot bench Winker. I understand about you can't have more than enough outfielders, injuries and such, but you can't bench Winker.
Where do you put him? Who do you sit down?
You got to find a spot for him. He was there, and he was hot for the longest time and then cooled off, but he was still by far our most productive hitter.
I think he's good too. I just don't know who you sit in his place.
It's going to be any given night, Akiyama, Senzel, or Castellanos. You've got to keep him in that lineup somehow. You got to play him at least 5 out of 7 days. We talk about the hitting last year, and it wasn't because of Winker that they were down.
I actually think Winker's probably a better hitter than Shogo. I just don't know how Winker would be as a leadoff guy,
Don't want him as a leadoff guy either, but
yeah,
I thought number 3 or number 5, I've been saying that for a couple of years, is where I would put Winker. I would think I would. That's
where the DH really helped him last year as far as getting guys playing time. It didn't really help him score more runs, but it helped him get playing time for these guys. That's what it did. The other thing that really matters here is that who they do get at shortstop, because where that guy's going to bat in the lineup can make a difference, right? So Gregorius is going to be 31. I just found something here. This is a website sort of projecting out free agents, and they list Didi as the number eighth best free agent. And the projection here is 3 years. The Reds would sign him for 3 years for $39 million. And he made, he had that 1 year deal, as you said, Tom, for $14 million with the Phillies last year. He had a full healthy season.
Played the full season.
Yeah. He had a 116 WRC plus, really looking like himself as he did before. He clearly had the best season of the three. There's 3 veteran shortstops on the free agent market, and he had the best year.
What was his
I don't know what his WOBA was. I'd have to look that up. And he was originally a Red, right? So
right.
It would be good to bring him back. I think. I really that's what I'd like to see him do. If you give him 3 years, 2 or 3 years, he probably wants a 3. He's 31. I'd be going for a 3-year deal if I'm 31. That's fine. If you decide you want to deal him after 2 years for something because you think Jose Garcia is ready to go and be just as good, then you do that. You don't have, they've proven, well, I don't know if they've proven, but this whole Sonny Gray talk says, well, you get a guy under 3 years for a good deal. That's kind of what happens. So we shall see. At any rate,
what's the dates on all this, you guys?
What's that?
What's the dates on all this? When is all the big signing period and everything have to be done? I mean, is it just before spring training, or I know stuff has happened at spring training, but
well, let's see if I can find there's usually a free agent calendar out there.
I know we're in the hot stove.
Right. People were talking about it. So they just had the Rule 5 draft, and the Reds did not draft any major league Rule 5 guys. They drafted some minor league Rule 5 guys. Contract options were due on October 30th. You had to do the qualifying offers by November 1st, which was $18.9 million, which the Reds did do for Trevor Bauer. So if they lose Trevor Bauer, then they'll get draft picks out of that. Free agency began November 1. Deadline to accept or reject a qualifying offer was the 11th, which happened, and they mostly always reject it. Non-tender deadline was December 2nd. Winter meetings just happened. They just had the Rule 5 draft. January 15th you have to submit salary figures for arbitration. So free agents period is open. Just, how it is. It takes a while, and then it becomes a domino effect at some point. That's where we are with that. So Reds could sign somebody today.
Today or training.
Spring training. Yeah. They're going to want to get it done. We're going to know a guy like Gregorius is going to, there's February 27th is officially spring training date. So a guy like DJ Gregorius is going to be signed by then, most likely, unless he's just getting terrible offers and he's holding out, waiting for somebody to get hurt. But he's a starter. There's some other people. The Reds are right there. He knows if he signs with the Reds, he's the starting shortstop. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about that. So
the Brewers, I guess, are looking for a shortstop too.
Yeah.
Looking through the other team's needs.
They are. Those are the guys. That's who we have. I'll be surprised if they make another big deal. The Mets right now are the odds-on favorite, I think, to sign Trevor Bauer. Is that what you guys have heard? Yeah. Exactly. So I don't blame him. Coming off that year, man,
He's even said that he would consider a multi-year deal, and who else better to give you that and what you want than Steve Cohen?
Yeah, the Mets are ready to spend. A lot of people talk about trimming payroll, but the Mets are looking to go the other direction, right?
Want an owner who will pay the luxury tax.
Well, who's that going to be? Who's willing to do that? There's a handful, but in this market, that's hard to imagine ever having an owner that would be willing to do that.
I agree.
Yeah, it's just not going to happen. So we've talked about the lineup. A little bit about the bullpen, the starters, and just to review that, if we don't trade Sonny Gray, we've got Gray, Castillo. Do you think they'll re-sign DeSclafani? Is there any reason to re-sign DeSclafani, or are you ready to try somebody else?
I am ready to try someone else.
Yeah,
I don't know who that would be, but
maybe Miley, injuries last year. A healthy Wade Miley could be very good. Not as good as Trevor Bauer was, but still good. I think, Tyler Mahle certainly has an opportunity to be the number 4 guy. And then there's Lorenzen as far as who we have now. Will they sign somebody? Will they make a trade? I mean, I don't know. I don't know that they will.
I'd just like to see them get Gregorius and then sit where they are.
With the possible exception, I would say, of maybe someone else, an acquisition for the bullpen. I agree with what Tom. And I said the possible exception.
Right. I guess outside of what you would consider a regular position player, an everyday position player, and starting pitching, I think they're going to – I'd be shocked. I don't know about shocked, but I'd be a little bit surprised if what we see right now in everyday position players and who those 5 guys I just mentioned as possible starters, I'd be surprised if there was a change, unless they got a tremendous offer for Sonny Gray and they make the trade and we all go like, well, yeah, you had to do that. And then that might change the lineup a little bit. And it might change.
What would the tremendous offer be?
I don't know. And I don't think it's coming. I don't think it's coming. So I really don't. I don't think we're going to trade him because I don't think the offer is going to be good enough. And I think fans would be a lot of like, you guys aren't trying to win, and you need people to come back to the ballpark this year. So you have got to put your best foot forward for whenever people can come back to the ballpark, for people to want to come back to the ballpark, not just because, we can go. No, we want to go see this team play. I think to me, that's a good business decision, but it's not my money. So
easy for us to spend. Yeah.
Oh, it's really easy to spend Bob's money. We could all spend Bob's money. Like if you could spend Bob's money, Kim would be paying luxury tax. So he already stated that. Yeah.
I finally understand what that ring and that luxury tax of $75 means on the Monopoly board game now. I get it.
Yeah, don't you hate landing on that spot? It's like, are you kidding me? $75 for luxury tax? Unbelievable. Starting pitching, I mean, I think that another guy we haven't talked about that I think could be very good pitcher in some fashion for this team next year is TJ Antone. I think we liked a lot
good last year.
We liked a lot of what we saw of TJ Antone.
The beard.
Oh, he has like a perfect beard, doesn't he?
It is. It's a perfect beard.
Perfect beard.
He can hide files in that sandpaper,
He's a guy that I think he's 27 years old. He just turned 27. And I think he's got some good future with this team. Started 4 games, and he didn't go very long in any of those starts, as I recall, but he got them. He was that bridge to where they needed to get to. I think he's good. There's other guys as far as starters coming up. I think Trevor Bauer goes, as much as we wish we had him back. I hope that the top starting prospects coming will actually be better than the last round that we had, of where we thought we had good starting prospects. Speaking of Robert Stevenson and people like that didn't really pan out. I mean, Mahle has been pretty good. Is he ever better, more than a number 3 guy? I don't know. I think the jury's out on that. So over the next couple of years, I think we're going to see Nick Lodolo and Hunter Green in Cincinnati, and we're going to find out if those guys are for real. And if those guys can come in and be for real, and you get 6 years out of them before you got to pay them up $30 million a year, $20 million a year. Wow. That's good for the long haul. That's really good for the long haul and being able to build something, which is what I think you've got to get to that. You've got to get to that. If it's constantly going out trying to find starters through trades and free agents, you're always going to have those short windows with them because of contracts in free agency when it's coming up. You're always going to have those shorter windows. So you got to find a couple guys to be like a Castillo. You know, you're able to have Castillo for a long time. And if these guys can do that too, then you're always going to have turnover in starting pitching, right? How often does any starting rotation have the same 5 guys for more than a couple years at best? I mean, it's always turning over. But as long as it's sort of like, you know, when you're running a college or high school program, you know, your seniors graduate, but then your juniors and sophomores are there moving up and being able to help. So it's sort of like, that's sort of my analogy of like when a couple guys become too expensive or ready to move on, you've got 2 or 3 more guys coming along, and you don't have like this down year. So if you can avoid that down year of nobody taking a big step and being a legit major league pitcher starter, then you can maintain some consistency. So
should we talk about another person that the Reds let go last year that found a new home? Tom Brenneman. Did you read that he is now announcing for, is it the Roberto Clemente League?
Yeah, he's in Puerto Rico. Yeah.
Puerto Rico. That's interesting.
He gets to still call baseball. I don't think he's not going to move down there. Is he just going to go down there during the season or?
Yeah, I guess. I mean, I thought it was curious. Why do you think professionally he did that, Jeff, as a guy kind of in that world?
Well, I don't think he had any real choice, did he? I mean, he wasn't going to get a job here.
Right. But is that supposed to help him get a job here later?
Because I don't know.
I think so. He at some point he likely will be given another chance. I think he should. I think it's politically correct or whatever what they did to him. I think what he did was egregious. What he said was egregious, I should say. But at least now he can go and say, I love this game. I went down here. I called these games in the Roberto Clemente League in Puerto Rico. And they can say, okay, you paid your dues. You've done this. You've shown you really want to come back. And I do. I think there's purpose in mind.
Was that kind of like being sent to Siberia for a while?
Yeah,
come back
it kind of is. It's like going, you know.
Tom, that's a cold comment you just made.
I think it kind of is. I think there's some truth in that. It's like you go here and work out your issues, and then time can pass, and you know he's shown contrition. There will always be people who would say, "Don't ever give that guy a second chance because of this. This is unforgivable." Type of thing. Don't ever give him another chance. And then there are others who will be like, well, no, we do want to give another chance. Let's move forward and do that. So I guess he has to show, I mean, this is obviously a very humbling thing for him to have to go do. And if he does it and he does it well, maybe someone will give him an opportunity back here. I don't know if it'll ever be the Reds. You know, a lot of times these kinds of things happen, whatever the reason, you know, there's multitude of reasons guys get shelved and pushed out and exiled, right? So he's been exiled. Maybe that's another word you could use for it. He's been exiled to Puerto Rico. Usually they come back somewhere else. He's worked out west before. Maybe he ends up out that way somewhere and works somewhere else and is not, you know, maybe he's never back on Fox calling NFL games again. Maybe never a national job again, but just a regional job again, where he's just known in that market and not across the country.
Well, he's about our age, I think.
Yeah, he is.
He's like 50, early 50s, I think.
Well, maybe he could join our podcast someday. That we'll give him maybe we'll be the ones to give him a second chance. But I'm kidding, of course. But I think.
Will we be willing to go with 4 old Reds fans if Tom joined us?
Yeah, sure. We'll change the name.
Hey, we We have grace.
We don't know if somebody else, if some other organization out there has said, Tom, go do this, a little more time, and we might have something for you. We don't know that. I doubt that
That's true.
there's a job waiting for him after a season in Puerto Rico, but maybe he's talked to a lot of people, and a lot of people have said, this is something that you need to do.
Yeah, somebody had to have recommended that, right?
Yeah, Tom Brenneman isn't making what some of these baseball players make, but I'm sure he was making a nice living. I'm sure he was well compensated for the work that he's done.
Those guys make like $1 million. So.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure he's making good money doing it, but if he's our age, I mean, he's not ready. Okay, so he's not ready to retire. He can
right.
still. We call ourselves 3 Old Reds fans as more of a, poking fun at us ourselves, but none of us are ready to retire necessarily. I don't know.
I would retire.
I would. Yeah, I could retire if it was if I didn't have bills to pay and debts to pay. But but I got to figure Tom isn't ready to give that up. I mean,
yeah,
especially if you enjoy what you're doing. If you really love what you're doing, and if you're getting to call baseball games and football games and sit there and do that on television, that's probably a job you pretty much really love to do, and you've always wanted to do it. So that's kind of probably part of the reason too. He's just not ready to give up on it. And I think he'd love to come back and not necessarily prove people wrong or nothing like that, but just to come back and say, hey, I made it back, thank you for he'll be grateful and thankful for having that chance and just to be able to do that. And he can go out on more on his own terms, right? Everybody wants to go out on their own terms more than anything. And he obviously wants to do that. Any other thoughts? It's a little too early to make predictions about this team next year.
Not yet. We'll do that in spring training.
But knowing what we know about him is just knowing what I know about this team now, barring any fire sales, I think this is a team that has a chance to go out and compete again next year.
I saw some article about National League Central, and it had Reds at rebuild. It had another team at rebuild. It had the Pirates that had a different descriptive. I can't remember what it was for them. And it had the Cardinals of repositioning or whatever, something like that. Within our division, if not too many other teams are going for the throat and we can bring in another player or two, a position player and a pitcher, depending on who that person is, and not giving up on Sonny Gray, I think with the lack of revenue this past year, I think that's the best we can hope for, guys.
Yeah. I think if you sign Didi Gregorius and you don't trade Sonny Gray, you signal that we're still in this. We're still trying to win. I think a lot of people have jumped to the conclusion because of the Iglesias trade that we're in rebuild. I like the word reposition better. I think they are repositioning. I don't think they're rebuilding. I mean, they might be, but they haven't completely shown that hand. The only thing, did the Iglesias trade show their hand a little too bit to make it tough to deal and maybe sign Gregorius? Would Gregorius have signed already if they hadn't traded Iglesias? Maybe he's in a wait and see. He doesn't want to go somewhere that's rebuilding at 30, 31 years old, who's been on some good teams. He didn't want to go into a rebuild. It's the last thing he wants to do. But maybe that's not the guy they're really after. I hope it is. All right. Well, it's coming up on Christmas. Hope you guys enjoy your Christmas time. Tom, I see a tree behind you. And ho, ho, ho. Yes. We usually have some family come in from out of state who's not going to come this year. So that's a little bit of a downer, but we get to have a first Christmas morning with new grandson. That'll be fun. He'll be a little over 6 months old. Are you guys, Kim, you going to get to see your all your kids over break? I know you're a little more spread out than I am.
Yeah. No, at Thanksgiving, we saw 2 of the 3 kids and spouses and grandson, and Christmas, we'll see 2 of the 3 trading off on one of them for another one.
Right.
So we are planning to go to a different state, but I suspect we will not be able to because of the governor's edict about quarantining for 14 days and a somewhat hefty fine if you're caught. And so to me, that's not worth it. I'd rather not do that. So we are anticipating that we will be in Ohio for once for Christmas.
Yeah. Well, we've been staying in Ohio for years now because people sort of come to us, and we've got a lot of family around here, so we don't have to travel. But the ones that aren't coming are really because of too much, just a little, you can't eliminate risk, but can you minimize it? And we've talked about this before. I'm coaching middle school basketball and ninth grade basketball this year, and we've had quarantine issues already. It's like, I'm around those kids enough. I got to keep my distance from other people as much as possible right now, just because I don't want to get myself in a mess and then cause them all have to miss school and miss more games. And so just a heavy responsibility feeling toward that. So, well, Tom, none of yours are too far away yet, so I guess you'll see all yours around the holidays.
Yeah, I think we'll actually have all the kids at our house for Christmas, just for the day. They'll be somewhere else the day before and after.
Yes.
I think we'll get them all Christmas Day, so that'll be good.
That'll be good. And you have some big news in your family this week.
Yeah, we have another daughter-in-law coming into the family, so that's fun. She was here this morning.
Yeah, well, good. I have not gotten to meet her yet. Of course, this all started since COVID, right? Pretty much, or about the time COVID started.
Yeah, about the time COVID started. So they were across the street from you at the Geyers last night. So.
Yeah, I'm sure they were. I'm sure. I mean, I've seen Thomas over there more than once. So, yeah, eager to meet her and other family in town. My nephew will be in town with his wife. They're going to have a baby this year. So that's another sign that we are definitely 3 old Reds fans. We got kids getting married, more kids getting married. We got grandkids and more on the way at some point, I'm sure. So, well,
Kim, how old is your grandson now?
He will be 1 year old on December 29.
Oh, wow. Really? So he's getting ready to walk.
I was thinking he was born in January. It's close. I was thinking it was more after the first of the year. So that's cool.
Very close. We started the 3 Reds fans podcast, and Tom and I would be praying for all of the daughters to find men for marriage. I still pray that for some of our Bobs. And, we did not know how to spell grandkids at the time, and all of our kids were not married. I don't think any of them were married. So
no,
life changes.
None of mine were. No, because this is like, 4th year or so we've been doing this, and that's all that stuff's happened. None of mine were either. All that stuff has happened. So life changes are fun. And to see this kind of stuff happen is, it's part of what you expect to happen in your life if should you live long enough to be able to enjoy those things. All right. Well, we look forward to all our listeners out there. We wish you all a Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year. And we'll be back sometime after the first of the year once we see a little bit more what this team makeup is going to look like and share some obviously some just tremendous insight on that, right? I expect that, maybe not from me, but I expect you two guys to have just tremendous insight on
no doubt
on what this team's gonna look like. So
no doubt, we need to tell all of our listeners, Reds fans, get your kids and your grandkids Cincinnati Reds stuff. Baseball hats.
It's a good idea.
It's a good
idea.
It's like opening up gifts on Christmas morning when you hear our predictions.
So if Santa isn't nice to what?
Say what? I didn't want this for Christmas. This isn't what I asked for.
So if Santa isn't good to you this year, then just come back for us and sometime in January, whenever I can wrangle us all together and we can do this. It'd be nice to get together and do this in person again some point, but fortunately the Zoom thing helps. So
I should be here.
Yeah. Okay. This is wishing everyone no quarantines or isolations or anything else like that the rest of this year and into the next year. But if it happens, it happens, and keep the faith. So when we return, we'll know a whole lot more about what this team looks like and will look like, and we'll have a lot more to say about that. So for now, as we always say, go Reds.